So, Casey, last week we talked with Johnathan Haidt, the social psychologist and author, about how smartphones and social media are affecting young people.
But for God's sakes, I don't want my children, especially at the age of 10, 11, 12, to be anywhere near these platforms. TikTok is just so addictive. It is warping their development. So the costs are just enormous.
And I think it's safe to say it was one of our most polarizing segments we've ever aired on the show.
Yeah, I mean, this is just one of those where everyone has a really deeply felt personal opinion. Some folks are convinced that social media really is the primary cause of the mental health crisis in young people. Others think it is a moral panic. And we really heard from all corners of that debate over the past week.
Yeah, we always love to hear from our listeners. And I just thought some of these responses were so specific and so thoughtful that we should actually just go talk to them. We should call up our listeners, the people who wrote to us, and bring you their perspectives. Oh, and we should also just say, part of why we are talking about this subject is not just because it's something that people have strong feelings about, or that we're getting older and we feel like the kids these days, are using their phones too much. This is a really active debate right now, and a real inflection point in the history of the internet. I mean, just this week, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, signed a new bill into law that would prohibit kids under 14 from creating social media accounts. There are other laws around the country that are making their way through state legislatures with similar things in them. This is a really, really important debate right now and an ongoing policy discussion. So I really want to hear from our listeners, from young people especially, about how they're thinking about this question.
So first up, we're going to talk with Jordan Lucero. Jordan is a high school junior who sent us an email pushing back against some of the arguments he heard here last week. In his own words, he is addicted to his phone, but as a gay student, he is skeptical that taking away his smartphone in school would improve his own experience. So let's bring Jordan here.
Hey, guys.
Jordan!
Hi. It's an honor to be here.
Jordan!
I'm good.
Hello.
Hi.
What's going on?
I just got out of class.
And how was class today?
It was good. We watched a movie, so we didn't do anything.
That's what I like to hear about the American education system is why read a book or write anything when you could just enjoy the finest of what Hollywood has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, thanks for hopping on with us. Last week we interviewed Johnathan Haidt about his new book, and we got some really great emails. And yours struck me. Something I have talked about on the show is being worried that if we take social media away from kids, it could make life harder for LGBT kids in particular. Talk to us a little bit about that. Why don't you like this idea of taking away phones in schools?
The clearest thing, I tried to make it clear in the email that I was writing at 1 a.m. I just reread it again. I was like, oh, wow, I was pissed. But still, if our teachers don't trust us as people to manage our time, it completely changes the dynamic of the class, I think. If we need to look up something that we didn't get, we missed a note or something, and it helps us learn better. So, and if a teacher just takes that away, it just kind of rubs us the wrong way. And if I don't have friends in the class, it's just kind of miserable. And it's just the basic thing around respect.
Right. Well, so explain this a little bit, because, when I was in high school, if I didn't have a friend in the class, I would just sort of have to talk to whoever was around me to entertain myself. But you have a smartphone, so you told us that you actually just sort of text people who are not in your class during class. Tell us how that works.
So I have so many group chats, and it helps that I'm very dependent on them, because a few weeks ago when AT&T was out, I couldn't text anyone for 2 hours, and it was honestly, I had no idea I was that dependent on having constant access of just saying whatever I want. So it helps me just put my thoughts into words, and it just helps me feel better about what I do every day.
Now, some people might hear that and say, I don't know, Jordan, that sounds like that must be pretty distracting during class. And, I know in some of your classes, you just have to watch a movie, so it's probably fine.
Yeah.
But, presumably there are ones where there are lectures and homework and stuff. So don't you feel distracted by your smartphone all the time in class?
Definitely, and I should be a lot better at managing it. But mostly in my classes, most people are focused, and they're using their phones to either reply to a quick text, or they might be scrolling through, but they're not doing it during class. They're doing it in off time, so it's not hurting anything. I wouldn't say they're missing anything at all. And sometimes my phone helps me, like if I have to look up something, I'm able to do that. And
Right.
if we're doing downtime and I see another teacher post an assignment, I'm gonna get a start on that. I'm doing emails. I'm managing the other clubs that I'm in. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm not just scrolling through brain rotting. I'm just like how you guys use your phones to do things. We're also using them as a tool to get things done.
Well, Kevin mostly uses his phone to rot his brain, but I think it's actually really inspiring how you use it, and I'm hoping he takes a couple of notes from you.
Yes, teach me your ways. Jordan, do you, this is a little off topic, but do your group texts have names? Because one thing I have heard is that teenagers' group chat names are totally unhinged.
Okay, we have Bussy Bees. You can cut all this out. It's perfectly. Oh, now that I see all of them, I guess they're all kind of insane. I never thought about it. So we have Bussy Bees because one time I misspelled Busy Bees. Peach emoji, just that. This is not important. Be who you are and Badussy Buzz.
Wait, what was the last one?
Badussy Buzz.
Badussy Bus.
Yeah.
Kevin, what? You don't have that group chat yourself?
Wow. We have so much to learn.
Okay, just a couple more questions. Jordan, one thing you have me wondering is like, I can understand why the internet is useful to you. You know, you want to look up facts. Like all of that makes a lot of sense to me. When we were talking to Haidt, he tried to make a distinction between the internet and social media and said, look, internet access is fine. You want to get on your laptop and look stuff up. That's fine. That's like not hurting anybody. But it's this sort of the social media of it all where you're expected to take pictures of yourself and there are like counts underneath. And, you know, maybe it makes you feel self-conscious about your appearance. That is the really harmful thing. Like, do you have thoughts about the kind of social media in particular and what it might be doing to your school?
I think it's really a net positive, but that's the thing. He tried to like distinct between the internet and social media, and they're so now intertwined that you can't really make that distinction anymore. Like if I want to get the news, even though I probably shouldn't, I'm doing that on something like Threads or Twitter. And that's just one example of what's so intertwined.
I'm curious, you know, again, there's this big push to take away social media from kids, especially kids younger than 16. And I just wonder, as a gay student, how you think that would affect LGBT students.
It would really harm like the self-discovery process, I think, and finding a healthy community. I was on Twitter at age 9, which is absolutely insane. And it taught me, and it's for the better. I've been lucky enough to have that experience, where it's a healthy experience. But
wait, what were you doing on Twitter at age 9, Jordan? Were you dunking on people?
No, my Minecraft like YouTubers, they like follow me on Twitter, and I would just do anything. And I just
so you were tweeting at Minecraft YouTubers.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it helped me see a large variety of viewpoints about a lot of social topics that would just be on trending topics like every day, and it taught me a lot more about the world, and it's made me a better person for it.
Yeah.
Process.
So am I hearing you say that like you feel like social media helped you come to a sort of very positive self-understanding?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then my last question was just whether you're doing anything at your high school to get the word out about Hard Fork.
I'm going to post this on my Instagram story if you guys put it in the show.
Well, this is fantastic. I truly, like, your email meant a lot to me. I had a great time talking to you, and thank you for indulging our questions.
Yeah, thank you both.
Thank you, Jordan.
Awesome
You're
talk.
inspiring me to come up with funnier and more unhinged names for my group chats. So
Badussy
for that
Bus,
alone,
baby.
I'm grateful. Good to talk to you.
It's been an honor. Thank you, guys.
Next up, we're going to talk to Maya Rayle. Maya is not a teen. She's 24, but she wrote in to talk to us about this issue, and she pointed out that the things that our conversation with Johnathan Haidt might have overlooked is how valuable social media can actually be for students, and in particular for student athletes. She's an athlete. She runs track and field, and in her experience, social media has been an important way for female athletes, especially to get opportunities related to their athletic accomplishments.
Maya, where are you joining us from today?
So I'm actually in California. I'm on the Wisconsin track team, and we've got a race in like the Bay Area this week.
So you're in our neck of the woods.
I am, yeah.
Well, welcome to town. We hope you're having a good time here. So Maya, what has been the value of social media in your life as a student athlete?
I think it's like a really nice way for me to figure out like what different accomplishments people are having and like just get news about like, who ran a fast time, like what athletes I should be following, learn a lot about like what's going on in different people's lives.
And tell us what kind of athlete you are. What's your sport?
So I'm a runner. I run the mile 1500 meter 5K.
Cool.
Awesome. So further than Kevin runs in a typical day is what it sounds like.
Hey, you don't know that.
I don't
Probably
know.
faster, but maybe not further.
I also think that part of what you're bringing up here is that if you're a really serious young athlete and you want to compete at the highest level, Division I, you want to go pro, you might actually be at a disadvantage if you're not posting on social media, even from the time that you may be a freshman in high school. Does that sound right to you?
I think that's absolutely correct. I think that so. I don't know how much the listeners know about NIL, but that's name, and image, and likeness. And it's this alternative way that student athletes can harness the power of social media in order to get paid by businesses. It can be really important. I mean, there's a lot of inequality in it, but this is like an opportunity for a lot of female athletes and male athletes as well to just like have more of a platform than they otherwise would have, get monetary gains from it, which they can't get directly through their schools. And so this can be a pretty important financial aspect for certain athletes.
Yeah. Now, I think my guess is you would agree that for all of the benefits that you just raised, which I think are very real, social media can be a double-edged sword. And I wonder if you have seen the flip side of it in your life. Are there people in your life who you feel like social media has contributed to anxiety or depression or has just kind of, made people really upset over the years?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I think the like body image side of it can be super damaging to people. I mean, I think that there's also just these like echo chambers and rabbit holes where like as soon as you pay attention to one thing, it just feeds you more and more of that. And you can see the different ways that these algorithms definitely can influence you in that way.
So, Maya, if you don't think that we should heed Johnathan Haidt's recommendations and keep smartphones away from kids until they're in high school and social media away from kids until they're 16 or older, if you don't think those are the solutions, what do you think should be done, if anything? Or do you think this is all basically being this is just sort of a scary narrative that adults are telling about kids these days, and we should just let the kids do their own thing?
Oh, it's tricky. I mean, I feel like I don't have the answers to it. I think it's really complicated. I mean, I guess like I kind of thinking about it a little bit like drinking, where like the types of parents that restrict their kids, like you can't have a sip of alcohol, like you have to stay in, like you can't do any of that. Like as soon as they graduate, as soon as they leave, like 18, what happens when they get to college is that they just go way overboard. And I saw that like so many times that like the people with the strict parents that didn't give them any freedom, it just didn't go well. And so I think that parents should be able to trust their kids. Like, maybe a 12-year-old shouldn't be on social media, but like a 15-year-old, I mean, that's mostly a real human being at that point who can make their own decisions.
Right.
Yeah, somebody else who wrote to us this week pointed out that, we don't let kids younger than 16 drive in most states, but you can get your temporary permit. There's sort of there's a sort of ramp for you to like gradually learn how to drive and be given more and more responsibility. And then when you're 16, you sort of get the whole thing. So maybe that's what we need, is some kind of like, training wheels for people who are, they're sort of 14 or 15. Maybe they're not ready for the full social media, but they can get their learner's permit.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. I think that totally makes sense. Yeah.
Maya, when did you create your Instagram account? How old were you?
I was probably 11 or 12.
Okay. And the reason I'm laughing is that you're not supposed to create an account till you're 13. Would you say that Instagram threw up any roadblocks to be like, hey, sure seems like you're 11?
Oh, I mean, I knew that I had to be 13 or something,
Yeah.
I just like lied about my birthday. Like literally everyone in my class did that.
So your whole class is 11, and they're on Instagram, and they're posting photos and collecting likes in I guess this would be what, the sort of 6th grade?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I have to go lie down now. Oh, I mean, here's what I appreciate about this discussion. You've hit on this tension that is unresolvable for me, whereas I think it's very clear that social media is hugely beneficial to some young people, and I think that it has very positive effects for them. And I also think that social media has really negative effects for some group of people. And I don't know exactly how large the different groups of people are, but the area where I struggle is, how do we design a policy or a set of policies or systems to sort of ensure that we get the most good out of this for the most number of people while minimizing the harms? And I truly don't know how to do that.
I don't have the answers to that either. I don't know.
Maya, that's why we brought you on the show.
Yes, you're supposed to give us all the answers.
I mean, I set time limits for myself, and like sometimes that works, but sometimes I just like ignore them. But yeah,
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely tricky, but I think it's like part of the world that we're in right now is that you can waste so much time on your phone or on your screen, and like learning those skills of being able to not do that, whether you're 15 or 18 or 40, I think it's difficult no matter what.
Well, it's great to talk with you. If you do come up with a solution to this problem, we hope you'll call back. But in the meantime, we hope that you have a great meet this week.
Yeah, have a good
Thank
meet.
you so much.
Next up, we're going to talk to Jack Campbell. Jack is 20 years old. He's in college, and he wrote to us with a really unsettling account of how frequently in his life he has learned that a friend or acquaintance of his had attempted suicide. He wrote to us, quote, "I've not experienced childhood in any other decade, but from what I'm told, this was not the situation of 20 or even 30 years ago." Now, we should note, if you're in crisis, please call the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988, or you can contact the crisis text line by texting TALK to 741-741. To learn more about Jack's experience, we give him a call. Jack.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Sorry about my kind of barren dorm wall.
That's okay. I actually find it more attractive than our studio, which was designed by professionals. Where you go to school?
William and Mary.
Oh, very cool.
In Virginia.
Very cool.
And this is your dorm room that we're catching you in?
Yeah. This is like my little. I'm a resident assistant, so this is like my little like office area, and then I've got the sleeping area over there.
What is being an RA? When I was in college, RAs mostly would, like give out condoms and tell people not to be so obvious about smoking weed in the dorms. What are your main duties?
It has not changed, and sometimes I have to do a little pizza party occasionally. You know.
Well, first of all, thank you for writing into us. You sent us a really touching email, and maybe we could just start by having you talk about your reaction to when we talked to Johnathan Haidt last week and his thoughts about maybe taking social media away from young people. What has your own experience been here?
Yeah, the social media, kind of as you guys have said, has been obviously like a huge part of my life, and I've been on social media since I was like 11, 12, and I've had an iPhone for forever, and it's worked out great for me. I'm in college, and I like to think that I'm doing relatively well and all that, but those. The data that Johnathan Haidt kind of brings up about rates of depression and rates of suicide and all that, those data points are my friends, and it's one of those things where I think that his proposed solution of preventing people from creating accounts specifically, I don't think that it's gonna be harmful if you're just allowed to like see, look, but don't touch until you're 16, and I think it's something that we really do have to do something about. Clearly, it's clearly a crisis.
Yeah. Have you had friends or people who are your close to who have had serious mental health struggles that you or they would attribute to use of social media?
Definitely. 100%. Multiple, and I don't think that you can get away from the fact that so many of our interactions these days are mediated by these online platforms and these social media and stuff like that.
Can you say a little bit more specifically about what aspects of social media do you think are contributing the most to depression and the desire to self-harm?
I think when you have, timed photos and, snap map, you really want to know, are kids having a party without you? You can see them on a map. They're all hanging out together and I'm at home, and that's, and all you can do is just watch them drive around. And, it's very much the case that you get on Instagram and, everyone else is, they're at events. Even if you're at some of these events, just the fact that there are events that you're not at, you get into that kind of like self-comparison mode.
Jack, you mentioned that you've had social media basically your whole childhood or your whole adolescence, and that you feel like it's worked out pretty well for you, even though you do know lots of people for whom it has not worked out well. Do you think there's something different about the way that you use social media versus some of your friends, or is it just kind of luck?
I think a lot of it is luck. I think, I can't deny the fact that, I'm male. And the statistics don't look nearly as bad for us, but, no, I don't necessarily think that anything was really different about the way that I used social media in comparison to my friends.
Do you think the idea of not letting kids have social media accounts until they're 16 would be like popular among your friend group, or do you think you're more of an outlier?
I don't think I'm that much of an outlier. I think that would be, I think Johnathan really hits the nail on the head, where if it's kind of a collective action problem, I think that's going to be a reasonably popular thing among people of my generation.
I mean, Johnathan Haidt said that, he asked his students, how many of you wish TikTok were never invented? And like most of the hands in the room go up. Like, would you be one of those hands?
Yeah, I go through periods where I'll just like delete TikTok because I need to like do homework occasionally. My girlfriend, she really actually kind of struggles with this. Is she tries to delete Instagram. She's cut it down to Instagram Saturdays, and then every so often she'll re-download it on a Tuesday, and it really sucks for her. She gets really distraught about it. It really is.
I think this is such an important point, because I talk to the folks over at Meta and Instagram a lot, and they push back really hard on me when we talk about this stuff, and they say, Casey, like, you're falling prey to this moral panic, and this is just sort of comic books and heavy metal and video games all over again. But like when you talk to the kids who are reading the comic books and listening to the heavy metal and playing the video games, like none of them were saying, take this away from me, it's too dangerous. Or like, I have to set aside 5 days a week where I can't even look at this thing and I'm going to feel distraught in the days in between. There is some emotional level that this stuff really scares a lot of people, and it causes them a lot of grief. And that is something that I just think that the platforms are really refusing to reckon with.
I completely agree.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Like your email was great, and you're incredibly thoughtful, and really appreciate your perspective on all of this.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, really. I really appreciate it.
Jack, thank you so much. And your mustache is so cool.
It's so cool. Funny. I called my dad this morning. I was like, should I shave it? Like.
We also got a lot of emails and social media posts from teachers, people who work in schools and see up close the effects that technology is having on young people every day. And so we're going to hop on a chat with Brendan Kelley. Brendan is a teacher. He's been a teacher for more than 20 years. He currently works at a high school in Richardson, Texas as a digital coach. And he wrote in with some observations about how he sees smartphones and social media affecting his students. Brendan, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Where are we catching you today?
All right, so I am at school. I'm at J.J. Pierce High School here in Richardson, Texas.
And what do you teach?
So I am a digital coach, and what I do is I actually have a small group of elite students who we will meet with teachers, and we'll just help them with lesson plans, help them integrate technology into their lessons.
Sounds very relevant to the subject we're going to be discussing today. Brendan, after our episode last week, you sent in this story over email that really unsettled me. You said that when you give a state test, you have to keep the classroom quiet after the last student turns in their test. And before iPhones, you hated that because it was impossible to keep kids from talking to each other, even if they weren't friends. But now that iPhones exist, there is apparently just an eerie silence that fills the room. So talk to us about kind of classrooms before and after smartphones.
Yeah, for sure. So that is absolutely right. And the deal is that before iPhones and before social media, I would hate when that last test would come in, because then that means that I would have to really, really struggle to keep these whispers down. And these are kids, like 30 kids who kind of know each other, kind of not. But it would be a real struggle to keep it just from erupting into just a whole bunch of talking. However, now it's super easy. And that's not because they have their phones and they're just like absorbed in their phones. They still have their phones like away in their backpacks. But the problem is that I don't know if it's like a lack of motivation or it's a lack of skills or what it is, but a lot of the times they'll just kind of sit there and wait for those phones. And so it's really easy to keep them from talking to each other because there's not a lot of motivation for them to talk to each other in the first place.
So your school is not a school that bans students from carrying their phones on them during the day. Does your school have any rules about how students can use smartphones?
It does, yeah. So the deal is that, like, theoretically, they are supposed to get or not have their phones out of their backpacks until lunch, and then they can use their phones during lunch, and then they have to put them away. Now, we do have some pilot schools who are doing a pouch program, like your guest talked about before. And at first I thought, well, that's ridiculous, because what they do is they'll take a broken old phone, their brother's phone, and then they'll put that in the pouch, and then they'll say, all right, let's go ahead and seal it up. And, and then that's fine. And then they're still looking under the table. But, actually,
take my BlackBerry. You can lock that up.
Yeah, right. Exactly. What is this flip phone? So I did not believe in it at first, but I will say I talked to a teacher who is in a class where they're using that, or is in a school where they're using that. And she says that the kids are not only doing it, but they're kind of happy about doing it because, and I think like your guest had talked about this before as well, is that it leveled the playing field. Like, okay, everybody's doing it. Everybody is like off of social media in my school. I guess I'll do it too. She actually gives them bonuses. Like when she sees that the phones are in the pouches are like sealed and everything is great. And she says she gives a lot of bonuses.
That's interesting.
Extra points for tests and stuff like that, or cash?
Oh, we're teachers. Yeah.
Kevin, where do you
I don't know, candy. I don't know. There are lots of ways you can give a bonus.
Teachers are just passing out $100 bills over
They're
here.
They're giving us cash. They're like, hey, can I borrow a? No, it's, yeah.
But Brandon, this is really interesting because what you're saying is that it seems, at least for some of the students in your district, they really are looking for an excuse to not have their phones around. And as long as no one else in their line of sight has their phone out, it makes it okay for them to focus on whatever they're supposed to be paying attention to in class.
Yeah, for sure. And like I've been asking around, like, kids, okay, tell me your opinions on phones, social media, and it's pretty much 100%. That we understand that it's bad, and we also use it for, like, I talked to one kiddo today who was saying that she uses it for like anxiety, to calm her anxiety. She floods her feed with, like, she follows all sorts of positive folks. And when she gets a little anxious, she takes out that phone, reads about, it's all going to be okay. This is a moment and this will pass. and then she puts it down and she's good to go. It's a little bit of like self-medicating. But I think that like that's the key, is that we anytime you're fighting against human nature, you're gonna lose. You're fighting an uphill battle. And so instead of just saying, all right, that's it, we're pretending that phones don't exist, I think we need to teach intentionality behind it.
Right.
I totally agree.
I mean, I agree as well, but I think, what Johnathan Haidt would say is that it kind of doesn't matter if you teach kids to use these phones intentionally, just because social media in particular is just structured in a way to make you think about it constantly, to drag you into rabbit holes, to make you feel self-conscious about your appearance. And so even if you want to use it in a positive way, you might struggle to do that. So, Brendan, I just wonder kind of what your view has been overall of how students in your district are using social media. If you have a view, sort of, does it feel like a net positive, a net negative, more mixed? What is your sense of how it's playing out?
I feel like it's really the old story. I mean, I feel like there's good and bad about it. Like I said, I've been talking to a lot of kids, and I've heard the same thing now that I've heard 5 years ago, is that like, I know that I shouldn't be on this phone for this long. I have talked with kids who over the summer had 18 hours of TikTok daily.
Oh, God.
That's too much. And she was like, but that's okay. Now it's just down to 10. And so like, that's the thing, is that we understand that there's that it's addictive, and it is for sure. I mean, Dr. Haidt said that, that if you ask them, do you wish it never was created? Like, ask people, students, do you wish it never was created? They say yes. And, I mean, I'm definitely in that camp as well, but it is created. And I think, yeah, it would be great if we could do things to rein it in, for sure. But we also need to teach the ability to, it's really the ability to put it down. I think that's a big thing, is the ability to disengage.
Mr. Kelley, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And if you wouldn't mind being my digital coach, there are moments where I would need one.
Hey, I've reached peak digital coach talking to you guys. I can't even believe it. Thank you guys so much.
I'm having this problem with my printer. Maybe you could.
No, don't even talk. Don't even start, please. We've had too many problems today. You don't even know. You've just triggered me, and I need to go take a nap.
Brendan, I'm gonna email you privately to tell you what you should charge Kevin for digital coaching, because I know what he can afford. Hey, that's the end of this clip. If you liked what you saw, head on over to our page and subscribe, and you can get the full podcast. We do a show like this almost every week on tech and the future. Head on over there now and subscribe.